My name's Logan, and I never thought I'd be one of those people, the ones who tell stories that start with, looking back, I should have known. But here I am. Tessa and I had been together 6 years. Married for 3. We lived just outside Nashville in a 2-story townhome with a porch swing that squeaked if you leaned too far right. It wasn't glamorous, but it was ours. She worked in marketing for a boutique skincare brand that was always doing something up and coming. I worked in IT, mostly remote. We had a good rhythm. At least, I thought we did. That night, the air smelled like spring, honeys, and asphalt after rain. Her company was hosting its annual vineyard party, something they hyped up like it was the Met Gala. Tessa had been excited for weeks. It was all she talked about, what dress to wear, how her team had grown, how it was going to be at this dreamy estate vineyard about 30 minutes outside the city. I didn't mind going. I liked seeing her in her element. She spent more than an hour getting ready. Her makeup was soft and glowing, her hair curled into those waves that always looked accidental but took forever to get right. When she walked out of the bathroom wearing that midnight blue dress, the one with the open back, I paused. "You look incredible," I said. She smiled. "You think so?" "I know so." She leaned in and kissed my cheek, leaving the faintest trace of lip gloss behind. I remember that moment clearly. I remember how her perfume lingered after she passed by me to grab her phone. I remember the soft click of her heels on the wood floor. I also remember something else, something subtle. She didn't look back at me as we left the house. She used to. Always. The party itself looked like a Pinterest board brought to life. Rows of string lights danced in the breeze. Long tables were draped in linen with wine glasses that clinked like wind chimes. There was a jazz trio playing near the courtyard, and everyone seemed just tipsy enough to call each other by their first names, no matter how new the acquaintance. Tessa introduced me to half her department, smiling that polished, charming smile that came out around coworkers and people who could help her career. I was used to it. It wasn't fake, just curated. Then there was Andre. Tall, crisp haircut, charcoal suit that fit a little too well. He was introduced as our creative lead and offered his hand with a grin that hovered somewhere between polite and smug. "You must be Logan," he said, like he already knew me. "She's told us so much." That line stuck with me. He spent a lot of the evening near her. At first I thought it was harmless. They worked together, and marketing people always seemed touchy and overly friendly to me. But then I saw how his fingers grazed her lower back when he leaned in to whisper something. I watched how she didn't flinch or shift away. In fact, she laughed, head tilted back, eyes half-lidded. I chalked it up to wine, to office culture, to my own insecurity. Around 10:30, I offered to head out early. I was beat, and she seemed deep in conversation with her team. She glanced at me, eyes darting for just a second toward Andre, and said, "Go ahead, babe. I'll stay just a bit longer. You know, for the final toast." I nodded. "Call me when you're ready. I'll swing back." I left feeling like the third wheel at my own wife's party. I grabbed a coffee, sat in the car, scrolled through the news on my phone, and waited for the call. She texted around 11:15, "Almost done. Can you pick me up at the vineyard gate?" When I got there, she was standing under one of the hanging lanterns with her heels dangling from her fingers and a latte in the other hand. She looked tired, maybe a little dazed. But when she spotted me, she smiled. "I'm so tired," she said as she slid into the passenger seat. I laughed lightly. Rough night of sipping expensive wine and listening to jazz? She grinned, setting her heels on the floorboard. "You have no idea." Then, like it was the most natural thing in the world, she asked if we could stop by a little street cart that had set up just outside the venue's property line. "I need something warm," she said. "Iced wine is fun until it's not." We walked up to the cart, ordered 2 lattes, and I watched her swipe her card with a shaky hand. Probably just the cold, I thought. Or too much wine. As we headed back toward the car, she unlocked her phone. The screen lit up as she tilted it slightly in my direction. I wasn't trying to snoop, it was just the angle, the timing. But what I saw made my stomach drop. A preview of a text message. Contact name, just the initial A. The message, he didn't notice? I didn't react. Not outwardly. But inside? Everything froze. She saw me glance just for a moment and turned the screen away quickly, almost instinctively. Too quickly. Like it wasn't the first time she'd done that exact move. She laughed nervously, sliding the phone into her bag. I drove us home in silence, masking the storm inside me with small talk and a hand resting casually on the wheel. She talked about the wine selection, how the marketing team had finally clicked this quarter, how Andre has the worst dance moves, and everyone made fun of him. I nodded, smiled in the right places, but I wasn't really there. My mind was still stuck on that message. He didn't notice? I didn't know what it meant, not exactly. But I knew what it implied. And once a seed like that is planted, it grows fast. Invasive. Tangled. That night, as she curled into bed beside me, I laid awake staring at the ceiling. Her breathing slowed beside me, steady and soft, like nothing had changed. But everything had. The strange thing is, I didn't feel angry. Not yet. What I felt was something closer to grief. A quiet, unfamiliar ache in my chest. Like the life I thought I was living had been shifted 2 inches to the left, and I was just starting to notice all the cracks forming in the walls. In that moment, I couldn't tell what scared me more. That she might be hiding something, or that, deep down, I already knew she was. I didn't say anything the next morning. We made coffee like we always did, me grinding the beans while she stood in front of the toaster, staring off at nothing. It was quiet. Normal if you didn't know better. But I knew. Or at least I was starting to. And once that seed of doubt is planted, it grows like ivy, curling around everything, choking the air out of even the most ordinary moments. She reached for her mug, fingers brushing mine. I didn't flinch. I smiled like nothing had shifted. She smiled back, but hers was just a second too late, like it had to catch up. Maybe the most surreal part of all of this was how easy it was to act like nothing had happened. No big fight, no questions, just silence. But not the comfortable kind we used to share on slow mornings. This one had weight to it, like every unspoken word was piled on top of the table, waiting to tip. Her phone buzzed once while we ate. She glanced at it, didn't touch it, but her face shifted barely. A half blink longer than usual. A breath she didn't let all the way out. Then she tucked the phone face down on the counter like always and changed the subject to weekend plans. I played along. I nodded. Suggested we hit the farmer's market like we used to. She said that sounded nice. But the whole time, my mind was somewhere else. Locked on that one message. He didn't notice? I didn't ask who it was. I didn't ask what it meant. If she was hiding something, then she was prepared for those questions, and she'd have answers rehearsed and polished and ready. I wasn't going to give her that opportunity. I wasn't going to walk into her script. Instead, I just watched. Over the next few days, everything started to click. It was like someone handed me a key to a locked drawer in my memory, and suddenly all the random things I'd ignored came spilling out. The dresses. She used to throw on sweats for work-from-home days, but lately it was lipstick and flowy sleeves and heels, even when she said she had no in-person meetings. The gym schedule. She had started going more often to this new boutique gym across town. Said it helped her clear her head. But she never brought home merch or mentioned any trainers or classes. The phone, always locked, always flipped over. She used to leave it lying around without a second thought. Now she kept it with her even when she showered. I once walked into the room as it buzzed, and she snatched it like it was burning. The laughter. She'd been laughing more lately, but not with me. Over text, at the kitchen counter. Late at night when she said she couldn't sleep and went to the living room for a podcast. I'd catch a faint chuckle through the wall, different from the laugh she used with me. This one lighter, younger somehow. And Andre, that name kept floating back. He was too familiar with her at the party. Too confident. Like they'd already had conversations I wasn't part of. I remembered how he poured her champagne that night, the way his hand lingered when he handed it to her. How she'd thanked him with that tilted head smile, the one I used to think was just for me. I knew I should ask, but I didn't. Instead, I began to collect the moments, to sit with them quietly. I wasn't ready to confront. I was still holding out hope that I was wrong, that I was misreading it, that maybe it was innocent, and I just built a mountain out of shadows. But deep down, I knew. I knew because when you've shared your life with someone long enough, you know their rhythms, their moods. You feel their absence even when they're in the same room. And something in Tessa had gone quiet. She was there, but not with me. The turning point came 2 days later. I left work early, no reason, just a gut feeling. The kind that sits in your chest and doesn't let you focus until you listen to it. On the drive home, I spotted her car, parked outside a gym. Only it wasn't our usual gym, the one 10 minutes from the house. This was in a neighboring district. New. Upscale. One of those glass-fronted, influencer-packed places with eucalyptus towels and cucumber water. I pulled into a spot across the street and waited. 15 minutes passed. Then 20. Then she came out. She wasn't alone. Andre was with her. He was holding her gym bag. They were walking side by side, laughing about something. Her head tilted toward him again. That same smile. The one I hadn't seen directed at me in weeks. They stopped next to his car, sleek, black, something German. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. Then he leaned in and kissed her. Not a full-on kiss. Just the temple. Gentle. Familiar. But she didn't pull away. She didn't even flinch. She just smiled. Like it was normal. Like it was theirs. I didn't move. Didn't take a photo. Didn't jump out of the car and demand answers. I just watched. And then I drove away. No confrontation. No fight. Just quiet confirmation. It's strange how calm I felt in that moment. Not numb exactly, more like something had clicked into place. Like my brain finally caught up with what my gut had been screaming. It was real. Whatever I had feared, it was happening. I drove past our street, past the house, past the familiar turns I'd memorized over the years. Ended up at a gas station out by the highway. Bought a bottle of water I didn't drink and just sat in the car watching trucks roll by under the fluorescent lights. I thought I'd cry. Or punch the steering wheel. Or call someone, anyone, to unload the weight of what I just seen. But I didn't do any of that. Instead, I thought about the way she had looked at him. Like he was her center of gravity. Like I wasn't even in her orbit anymore. That night, I came home late. She was already in bed, curled up like nothing had happened. Her side of the bed smelled like lavender shampoo. She murmured something half asleep as I climbed in. I stared at the ceiling, listening to her breathe. It was the same room, same sheets, same soft hum of the ceiling fan overhead. But everything was different. And in that stillness I made myself a promise I wasn't going to be blindsided again. I wouldn't live in the dark. Whatever came next, I'd face it with my eyes wide open. Even if it shattered everything. After that night, things didn't fall apart the way you'd think. There was no big fight. No shouting. No dishes thrown, no doors slammed. Just silence. Stillness. The kind of eerie calm that creeps in right before a storm breaks. Tessa didn't know what I'd seen. She couldn't have. She was her usual self that morning, brewing coffee in her robe, humming something under her breath. She asked me if I wanted oat milk or half and half. I said half and half like always. She smiled, handed me the mug, kissed me on the cheek, and went back upstairs to get ready for her strategy meeting. The same woman who let another man kiss her the day before now wore my sweatshirt and asked if I wanted breakfast. It was surreal. But I didn't flinch. I didn't confront. I just observed. That whole day I kept looking at her like a stranger. Watching the way she tied her shoes, answered work calls, folded laundry. Ordinary stuff, but now everything had a second layer. Like she was playing a role and I was watching from the wings, finally seeing the seams in her performance. I told myself I needed more than just that one moment at the gym. I needed something undeniable. Something I couldn't explain away because I knew if I confronted her too early, she'd twist it. She was good at that, reframing things, spinning stories, making you question your own gut. 2 days later, I got my answer. I was heading home from work when I saw her car again. This time, it was parked outside a cafe near a lakeside walking trail. Not close to her office. Not close to the gym. Just out of the way. Random if you didn't know better. I pulled over across the street, slipped my sunglasses on, and waited. It wasn't long before she came out. Andre was with her. Again. Same casual energy. Same body language. Laughing, hands too close. They sat on a bench just outside the cafe, sipping iced coffees like they were on a lazy Sunday date. He reached over and touched her hand, then leaned in like he was whispering something. She laughed loudly and leaned into him. She was wearing the dress I told her she looked beautiful in the night of the vineyard party. I didn't stay long. I didn't need to. The dots had already connected themselves. Instead of going home, I stopped at a hardware store and sat in the parking lot. Just sat there, watching the cars move in and out, listening to the hum of regular life moving on. It's a weird thing, grief in real time. You don't cry. You don't yell. You just feel yourself stepping out of one version of your life and into another. Like changing lanes without signaling. And once you do, there's no going back. When I finally got home, the sun had already dipped low behind the trees. The porch light clicked on automatically, casting that soft amber glow across the welcome mat she bought last fall. The one that said this must be the place. Funny how a doormat can lie. She was inside, barefoot, legs tucked under her on the couch, scrolling through her phone like nothing was broken. She looked up and smiled when I walked in. "Hey, babe," she said, "you want to watch something tonight? I was thinking we could start that thriller series." "Maybe," I said, setting down my keys. "I'm kinda tired." "Long day?" "Something like that." She nodded, tapping her phone. "I ordered Thai. Should be here in, like, 20. I told her I'd eat later, went upstairs, and shut the door behind me. I didn't touch my phone. I didn't open my laptop. I just laid there on the bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering how someone could sit across from you, laugh with someone else, get kissed by someone else, and then come home like nothing ever happened. The next morning, she left early. Said she had a training seminar downtown. She kissed my forehead like usual. Waved from the door. I watched her go. And then I opened her laptop. It wasn't password protected. Never had been. Tessa always said she had nothing to hide. The last browser tab was still open. A booking confirmation. Lakeside Haven Retreat. 3 nights. Romantic package. Friday through Sunday. The upcoming weekend. The reservation had a message: please make sure the room includes wine on arrival, a fruit basket, and candles for Friday evening. 2 guests. His name was on the itinerary, Andre W. There was a profile photo tied to the reservation. Him again. That same confident smile. Sunglasses tucked into his collar. Tattoos just barely visible under the rolled sleeve of his linen shirt. I stared at the screen for a full minute, waiting for my heart to catch up with what I was seeing. She wasn't just cheating. She was planning it. Coordinating it. Scheduling it like a vacation. All the talk about a team retreat and needing time to recharge creatively was just cover. And me? I was the fool holding the umbrella while she danced in the rain. I didn't print it. Didn't **t it. Didn't even take a photo. I just closed the laptop, stood up, grabbed my keys, and left the house. Not because I was angry. Because I needed to breathe. Because in that moment, the walls of our home, felt like a set. Like all of this had been performance art, and I was just now noticing the cameras hidden in the walls. I drove aimlessly. Past our grocery store. Past the high school. Past the diner where we used to go at midnight when we couldn't sleep. I ended up on a road that led nowhere, just trees and silence. And there, I sat for what felt like hours. No music. No calls. No movement. Just me and the reality I tried so hard not to believe. She was gone. Maybe not physically. Not yet. But emotionally, mentally, she'd left long before I ever caught on. And what haunted me wasn't the betrayal. It was the effort she put into it. The planning. The smiling. The gentle goodnights. The love you texts before she met him behind my back. She wasn't conflicted. She was practiced. And I realized then that this wasn't just some temporary detour in our marriage. This was an exit ramp. And she had already taken it. After seeing the booking confirmation on her laptop, I didn't go back inside right away. I just drove. No music. No destination. Just the road and my thoughts stretching on like some endless gray ribbon pulling me forward because there was nowhere else to go. I ended up at the overlook near Belmont Hill, this quiet, open space that faced the lake. Tessa and I used to go there during the early days. We'd sit on the hood of my car and talk about stupid stuff, where we'd travel, the names we'd give a dog we never got, what kind of wedding we'd have even though neither of us had money at the time. Back then, I thought those late-night conversations were a promise. Now they felt like someone else's memories. I stayed out there until the sky turned dark enough that streetlights buzzed to life. Then I drove home, pulled into the driveway, and stared at the porch light she always insisted we leave on in case one of us gets in late. Ironic. When I walked in, she was in the kitchen, chopping up cucumbers like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't scheduled a romantic getaway with another man. Like she hadn't built a second life behind my back, one reservation click at a time. "Hey babe," she said without turning around. "I'm making that lemon couscous salad you like. You hungry?" I mumbled something about not having much of an appetite. She glanced over her shoulder and gave me a quick smile. "Long day?" "Yeah," I said, heading upstairs. "Just tired." She didn't press. She rarely did anymore. Not when it came to me. I shut the bedroom door behind me and leaned against it. The silence inside our house wasn't peaceful anymore. It was the kind that crept into your bones, the kind that made the walls feel like they were listening. After she went to bed, I sat in the dark at the dining table, the only light coming from the refrigerator every time it clicked on. I stared at her laptop sitting closed by the couch. It was just a thin piece of tech, plastic, metal, glass, but it had held more truth than anything she'd said to me in months. I didn't touch it again. I didn't need to. The truth was already there. I didn't need more receipts. What I needed now was clarity, how to move forward from this life I'd unknowingly been living in someone else's shadow. The next morning, I told her I was working from a coffee shop. She smiled, kissed my cheek, and said, "Have fun being a laptop gremlin." I laughed. Or tried to. But my face felt foreign. Like I was wearing someone else's skin. I drove to my friend Jay's place instead. He was the kind of guy who didn't ask questions unless you wanted him to. I told him I needed to crash for a couple days. That something wasn't right. He opened the door wider and said, "Spare keys in the drawer. Beer's in the fridge." That first night away from home felt strange. I wasn't sleeping in a hotel or at a family member's house or in some lonely motel. I was just on someone else's couch, wrapped in a borrowed blanket, watching shadows crawl across the ceiling while my wife planned candlelit dinners for a weekend I wasn't invited to. In the morning, I started making moves. Small things, but intentional. I revoked her access to our shared checking account. Not to punish her, just to protect myself. I froze the credit card we both used. Changed a couple passwords. Removed her name from our Spotify subscription or Amazon Prime. The digital stuff. The quiet stuff. Then I called our leasing office. Our lease was in both names. That needed to change. The clerk on the phone was polite. Said I'd need to fill out a form and show evidence of cause. I told her I'd be in later that week. I also called her mom. Not to accuse. Not to rant. Just to inform. "Hi, Marie. I just wanted to let you know that Tessa and I are going through some things. She may need support soon, and I figured it would be better coming from me than someone else." There was a pause on the other end. Then Marie said softly, "I'm sorry, Logan. I had a feeling." That sentence sat with me long after the call ended. She had a feeling. The next evening, I came home to grab a few more things. Tessa was there. Waiting. She was in the living room, pacing. The moment I walked in, she rounded on me. "Where have you been?" she demanded. Her voice was sharp, not panicked, defensive. Like she'd been rehearsing anger instead of guilt. "I've been around," I said calmly, grabbing a duffel bag from the hall closet. "You froze the card. Our accounts are locked." "What the hell, Logan?" I didn't answer. Just kept packing. She followed me into the bedroom. "You're seriously not going to talk to me? Not going to explain?" I zipped up the bag and looked at her, really looked at her, this woman who once cried when I got a cold because she felt bad for not making soup fast enough. Now she looked like a stranger trying to win a courtroom battle. "You want me to explain?" I asked, voice low. "All right. You lied. You cheated. You planned a trip with someone else and left the browser tab open like I wouldn't notice. So yeah, I made some adjustments." Her face froze. Just for a second. Then the performance kicked in. "It's not what you think." "Stop," I said. "You don't need to do that. You don't need to act like it was a mistake or that you were confused or that you felt lonely. I've seen the proof. I don't need an apology you don't mean." She folded her arms. "So that's it? You're just walking away?" "No," I said. "You already did. I'm just finally catching up." I walked past her, bag over my shoulder. She didn't follow me down the stairs. But someone else did. Andre. He was standing outside, leaning against his car like he'd been waiting for this exact scene. He didn't flinch when I walked out. Just gave a small smirk and said, "Look, man, I didn't want things to happen this way." I stopped at the edge of the porch and looked at him, really looked at him. There was something off about how relaxed he was. How controlled. He thought he'd won something. I didn't say anything. Just looked at him. And in that moment, something shifted inside me. I didn't feel rage. Or pain. Or humiliation. I just felt done. That was the moment I realized the worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was how small they both were once I saw them clearly. Not evil. Not even cruel. Just small. Shallow. They didn't ruin me. They freed me. I walked past him. Got in my car. Shut the door. Drove away. No rearview mirror glances. No parting words. Just silence. And it was the first kind of silence that felt like mine. After that final walkout, I didn't look back. Jay's couch became my base of operations for the next few days. It creaked when I moved, and the blanket always smelled faintly like old cologne and microwave popcorn, but it gave me space. More importantly, it gave me silence, the kind that didn't lie to me. I spent those days doing the unglamorous, necessary work of detangling my life from hers. It's a weird thing ending a marriage without the blowout. There was no shouting match, no broken plates or crying fits. Just steps, clicks, documents, tabs. Every time I clicked cancel or remove user, it felt like cutting a string. One after another. I pulled our joint passwords into a document. Flagged all the bills she had access to. Canceled everything from our streaming accounts to the cleaning service she liked to schedule behind my back. It was like peeling wallpaper, slow, methodical, exposing the bare wall beneath the life we'd painted together. The lease took longer. I filed the paperwork to remove her name from it. The manager, a soft-spoken guy named Kevin, gave me a look of awkward sympathy. He didn't ask questions. Just slid me the forms and told me to return them by the end of the week. I didn't tell Tessa anything. She'd find out soon enough. I wasn't being cruel. I wasn't trying to punish her. I was just done playing the nice version of myself that made it easier for her to lie. I also reached out to a lawyer. Nothing dramatic, just a quick consult. I asked questions. I made notes. I took a deep breath when she said the word dissolution. There's a weight to that word. Not explosive like divorce, not dramatic like separation. Just cold. Clinical. It sounded like the name of a procedure you go under for something you wake up from changed, but scarred. After a few days, Tessa texted me. Tessa, can we talk? Please? You can yell, scream, whatever you want. Just don't shut me out. I didn't respond. She called that night. I let it go to voicemail. She didn't leave one. The silence I gave her wasn't out of spite. It was because I needed space to hear myself again. After months, maybe years, of tuning into her moods, her emotions, her needs, I needed to remember what it was like to move to the rhythm of my own voice. But of course, the silence couldn't last forever. 3 days later, she showed up. It was late, almost 9 p.m., and I had just sat down with a bowl of something Jay called bachelor chili, which was really just beans, hot sauce, and regret in a pot. There was a knock at the door. Jay raised an eyebrow. You expecting anyone? I wasn't. I already knew. When I opened the door, she was standing there, makeup smudged, hair tied up, arms crossed like armor. Can I come in? She asked. I nodded. Not because I owed her anything, but because I didn't want the neighbors hearing what was about to happen. Jay gave me a look, grabbed his keys, and said, I'm gonna walk the dog I don't have. When she stepped inside, she looked around like she was expecting to find remnants of me. She didn't. Jay's place was minimalist to a fault. No wedding photos. No memories. Just a space that didn't belong to her. She sat on the edge of the couch, her hands clasped between her knees. I just need to explain, she started. You never let me. I leaned against the wall, arms folded. All right. I'm listening. She took a shaky breath. It wasn't supposed to go this far. Andre and he was just someone I could talk to. It started small. I didn't mean to. Book a lakeside retreat with candles and wine? I offered. Her face crumpled. I didn't go through with it. You would have, I said quietly. You just ran out of time. She looked down. Her voice was soft now. I was lost, Logan. You stopped seeing me. You were always working or tired. We barely touched anymore. I felt invisible. Right, I said. And instead of talking to me, you talked to him. And instead of choosing to fix what we had, you scheduled candlelit dinners with someone who doesn't even know how I like my coffee. Tessa's eyes welled up. I'm sorry. I know I wrecked everything. I was selfish. But it wasn't because I didn't love you. I did. I still do. I wanted to believe that. Part of me still craved those words. But they didn't land like they used to. They passed through me like smoke. Love isn't what you say, Tessa, I said. It's what you do when no one's watching. And I watched. I saw all I needed. She didn't argue. She just sat there, twisting a hair tie around her finger like it could hold her together. Are you filing? She asked finally. Yes. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Is there anything I can do to make you stay? I looked at her for a long moment. No, I said. Because I already left. She nodded, wiping her face. I guess I deserve that. No, I said softly. You deserve whatever you choose to become after this. I'm not your punishment. I'm just your consequence. She stood, hesitated, then walked toward the door. Just before stepping out, she turned back. I'll always regret this. I didn't respond. I just closed the door gently behind her. That night, Andre showed up too. Jay and I were watching a game when we heard another knock. Jay peeked through the blinds and sighed. The other guy's here. I stepped outside. Andre stood there, hands in his pockets like a guy who'd rehearsed his speech. I wanted to say something, he started. I didn't mean to get in the middle of something sacred. I laughed once. Sharp. Empty. You didn't get in the middle. You stepped in willingly. With your shoes on. He flinched but didn't back off. Tessa's confused. She's not my problem anymore, I interrupted. And neither are you. He tried to hold eye contact but couldn't. All right, he said finally. I just wanted to own my part. I nodded once. Good. Now own the exit. He turned and walked back to his car. That was the last time I saw him. The divorce moved fast. No contest, no drawn-out battles. Just a series of signatures and nods in conference rooms that smelled like stale coffee. Tessa didn't fight it. She barely said a word. I moved out before the papers were final. Small place, edge of town. Wood floors, open windows, silence that didn't hurt. I filled it with the things I liked: cheap mugs, loud music, mismatched furniture. I cooked food she once mocked. Wrote at night. Not revenge, just memory, so I wouldn't forget what betrayal looked like when it smiled at you across the dinner table. I started healing not because she was gone, but because I stopped chasing the ghost she left behind. Weeks later, she posted a photo. Her and Andre smiling. She wore my old sweater. The caption read, "New energy." I felt nothing. Just a quiet clarity, like my life had clicked back into alignment. A month after that, I heard they'd split. No drama, no big reveal, just silence. Same silence she left me in. I didn't celebrate. I didn't care. I just kept going, walks by the lake, reading, phone calls with people I'd pushed away. I learned to enjoy mornings again. Learned that freedom doesn't always come with fanfare. Sometimes it just looks like peace, like waking up and realizing you don't miss the noise.